Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're here with Connect with Najman Sari, and we are going to try to connect with the Quran as best as we can. And the surah we are looking at today is Surah Naml. So I like to, before I start, for you to have a listen to a bit of a recording of the surah from the beginning of it, just the first few ayahs. So Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
طاسين تلك آيات القرآن وكتاب مبين هدى وبشرى للمؤمنين الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم يوقنون إن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة زينا لهم أعمالهم فهم يعمهون أولئك الذين لهم سوء العذاب وهم في الآخرة هم الأخسرون وإنك لتلقى القرآن من لدن حكيم عليم إذ قال موسى لأهله إني آنست نارا سآتيكم منها بخبر.
Sadaqallahul Azim. So that was just the first passage of Surah Naml. And we see that it starts with Tasin. The surah previous to this was Surah Qasas, and we started it there as Tasin. No, it was Surah Shu'ara, Surah 26, and we started it with Tasin Mim. And as a matter of interest, notice these things in the Quran. That Shu'ara, which was Surah 26, had Tasin Mim. Here we're doing Surah Naml, and it's Surah number 27. We started this new series, this new grouping from Surah Furqan, which was Surah 25, Surah Shu'ara 26, and now we are 27, Surah Naml. And in Naml we have Tasin. Inshallah, just as an overview, when we get to Surah 28, which is going to be Surah Qasas, it has Tasin Mim. So these are all huruf-e-muqattat. The bottom line is we don't know what they mean, but it's interesting, Mufassirs have drawn that in these three ayahs, what's sort of prevalent or what comes frequently is the story of Musa alayhi salam from different aspects. Sometimes from this aspect, then in the next one it will be from his childhood and other things. And so it's bringing different aspects of Musa alayhi salam. It is primarily offered as it's offered for us to take heed and come right. But when it came down, it was a solace to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in first place. And the other thing, it reiterates a series how the validity of the Quran, how it is Quran al-Majid, Quran al-Azim, it makes things clear, and it is a hudan and bushra, it's a guidance and good news for the believers. So these first ayahs up to 5, and it says that the Quran was bestowed on you from the wise, from the Hakim and the Alim. So it is connecting Quran with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the bringer of the message, and whose message is it? It is from from Allah, the Hakim, the Alim. And notice which of Allah's names are coming up at the end of the various surahs of what is being highlighted. And inshallah, as you look more, for yourself, you will enjoy pondering on it, looking at it, and so on. So here we've got 6 ayahs as a generic overview, which you might have read while we were playing the surah. And now already in ayah 7, we come to the story of Musa alayhi salam. In some stories it starts straight away, like maybe in the next one, but here it says, and it talks about that I see a fire. It just picks up the story when he's got his family, he's done his years in Madian with his father-in-law Shuaib alayhi salam, and now he's coming away from there. and they're in travel mode. And here he says that I see a fire, and so I'll bring you either some information from it. He says it high up in the mountain or something, or I'll bring you. So for me, the takeaway something is, when we're always traveling, we take pit stops, and then we check at the petrol stations, and then usually the head of the family, the father or whoever, they will go and they say, let me just check if there is a musalla there. Can we say our prayers here? Is it halal? How is it? So have that sort of imagery, because he's got his family. And look at the beautiful thing that what we think we want to go and do, which is to get some information, or maybe I'll just be able to get a torch of fire, and then we'll be able to warm. But when he gets there, what does he hear? He says, in the nar, and he hawlahu, and he says, Subhanallah Rabbil Alameen, and blessed are those in the fire and around it. So it's Allah talking to him, and it says, Ya Musa innahu Ana Allahul Aziz al Hakim. So here it's reiterating Aziz al Hakim, before it was Hakim and Alim. And I mean, just for me, I love the story of Musa alayhi salam, when he goes just plodding along, maybe thinking he's going to get something. He's not right in high Sufi mode of what am I going to, I'm going to have a meet. He has no expectations of that. And then the beautiful thing is, after the story of the rod or something, and then Allah says that I chose you for else that I've chosen you as a prophet. But anyway, here the story is just to reiterate his hand that became white, and the snake, the rod that turned into a snake, just briefly up to 14, and then it goes straight in Surah Naml. It goes into the story of Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman alayhi salam, and how they were favored. Alhamdulillah allazi faddalna ala kathirin min ibadihi al-mu'minin. So we favor the two. So then I was also finding it interesting, and if you can, go and look in the Quran for all pairs of father, son, daughter or son, father, daughter. Look at those combinations and have that interest of these stories that Allah gives you in the Quran. And if you can't, take an interest in conversations. In the conversation Yaqub alayhi salam had with Yusuf, or then the conversation Yusuf alayhi salam had, but the conversation Ibrahim alayhi salam had with his father. Here we have Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman alayhi salam, and they said they were the heirs, and they gave, Sulaiman was the heir, and then Dawood alayhi salam was given the mantaq al-tayr, of the speech of the birds, and Sulaiman alayhi salam was given of all creatures, of all animals. And so the beautiful thing is that Sulaiman alayhi salam is going with his hosts of his marshals, and they come to a lowly valley. Hatta they come to this place, and qalat namlahu ya ayyuhan namlahu udkhulul masakinukum. He hears an ant tell his fellow ants, his whole troop, maybe it's a leader of the ant, it says, get into your homes lest Sulaiman and his host crush you unknowingly, wahum la yush'urun, without knowing it. So many beautiful things to take from there. When we did the tafsir of it, it was like, first you give the directives. Like, there's you have a fire alarm in your building and everybody has to evacuate or something. So first there's the alarm, you have to go. Once you've evacuated, then they tell you maybe why was it? Was there a bomb scare? Was it whatever? And here also, so first she tells them, get into your homes. Then she tells them, Sulaiman and his army might crush you. So that was an interesting takeaway for us as a today way of, when you don't give your instructions like sometimes we want to do, to make them so complicated, so funny, and that the person said, but I didn't know what you were saying. You're already in a panic to say it. So anyway, and then so what happens to Sulaiman alayhi salam? He smiles at her speech, فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا مِنْ قَوْلِهَا, on her speech. And what does he say? And then subhanallah, look at the beauty of where it's a reminder for us, when you see something beautiful, what does he say? He say, Rabbi awzani an ashkura ni'matika allati an'amta alayya wa ala walidayya wa an amala salihan tardahu, and wadkhilni bi rahmatika fi ibadika salihin. So Allah, you have graced me with that I may be grateful to your favors that you've bestowed on me, on my parents, and that I work righteously to believe you. So just look at the beauty of the favor. He could understand her, and he didn't say, oh wow, look at me, I'm immediately. And this is the beauty of where Allah give us the tawfiq, that whenever we feel at a good place, we're able to take it back to Allah, and Allah, thanks to you that I'm even able to do whatever little bit I'm able to do. So I just want to stop there. I mean, it's at the very beginning, but I want to get more into the story in the second half. So we'll just take a pause here, and I'll be back after the break. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, you might have heard that clip also of what the ant was saying. So, I just thought it's a very pretty thing. So that's once a little bit of that story starting, and then it goes on to say how Sulaiman alayhi salam is in charge of all his troops and everything, and he says, I see the hoopy missing, where is it? So from that we got that in this huge army, he is aware of who is missing and who's there. So either all they're in a file and they're all there, and you can just see wherever the gap is or something. So he sees his hoopy missing, his hudhud, and he says, where is he? And he wants to call her to account. So anyway, she pitches and she said, this is what I found, because he was like, want to go ahead to check if there is water coming up, or is there, to check where the water places where they should stop and so on. That's a background for him. But he says, well, I found a woman ruling over people, and she had a magnificent throne and this and that. So then Sulaiman alayhi salam, well, we'll check if you're telling the truth or not. So here, take this letter to them and see what reply they gave, because they were sun worshippers, and I found her and her people worshipping the sun besides Allah. So he sends us this letter, and we'll see. So send her this letter. So the queen gets this letter, known as Queen of Saba, maybe we also know her as Queen Bilqis, maybe. And so she says, oh, I've got a letter here that came to me, and it's Innahu mina Sulaymane wa innahu Bismillah Rahmanir Rahim. So, you know, we talk about that there are 114 surahs, there are 113 Bismillah Rahmanir Rahims at the beginning of the surah. Surah Tawbah does not have one. So that one which is not there in Surah Tawbah is here in the text of the Quran. There are different views. Does the Bismillah occur between every surah, or is it just at the first one and the others we just use a heading? We're not getting in that discussion, but anyway, when the interesting about her is what she talks about is she says, look, I always consult you, I don't do things. And she says kings, when they enter a country, they tend to spoil it, and they make the noblest of the meanest, and the meanest they put it up. And we see that who we have as rulers aren't always the best equipped for them. So anyway, then she goes back and take my gifts, and what's it called, Sulaiman alayhi salam, are you going to give me gifts? I don't need any gifts. And this resonates with what Zulqarnain said to the people when they said, we'll give you so much, please help us raise this wall or whatever. And he said, I don't need, what Allah has given me is 10 billion times better. And so Sulaiman alayhi salam also says the same thing, what Allah has given me is much better than what anything you could. So he said, tell them, and no, we don't need their gifts or anything, we're just going to come and have them come under Tawheed. So I'm not going into the detail of that history, but what's beautiful, he then says, which of you can bring me her throne to me? Who can bring her throne to me before they come in submission, before we have a confrontation with them? So who can bring her throne to me? So Ifrit says, I'll bring it to you before you rise from your council. And indeed, I have full strength of purpose. So this is Qala Ifrito. Then in Ayah 40, it says, Qala lazina indahu ilmun minal kitabe. Ana atika bihi qabla an yartada يَرْتَدَّ إِلَيْكَ طَرْفُكَ. So what that is saying, he says, the one who had knowledge of the book, I will bring it to you in a twinkling of an eye. And when Suleiman next opened his eyes or saw it, it was there, flamed firmly before him. And there too he says, oh, by Allah, this is a grace from my Lord, and to test whether I'm grateful or ungrateful. And if anybody is grateful, it's for yourself. But if anybody is ungrateful, truly Allah is free from anybody's need of gratitude. Even the gratitude we do comes back to us for our benefit. But the beautiful thing here about the indahu min ilmil kitab, what I love is the value that time and again in the Quran is placed on ilm. So we are not here just in rote learning, we just read it in Arabic, we don't have to understand it, we just all get some reward for it. That's not the point. So this is the bit in Surah Naml especially that I'd like to, and it goes back all the way in Surah Baqarah when we talked about Talut and how he was chosen to be the king, and the Jews were, but he's not one of the top brass of our community. So, but Allah said, but he has prowess and he has been given ilm. So this idea of, and even with Khizr alayhi salam, it was somebody who has ilm from there, which Musa alayhi salam did not have access to, and so on. So anyway, and then the beautiful thing is even this queen, she's amazing, because she's smart in her conversation with her counselors. Then here when he says, so he, Sulaiman alayhi salam asked, he said, is this your throne? And so she says, قالت كأنه هو, it is like it. So she doesn't say, no, it isn't, or she doesn't say, yes, it is. So this again, it also goes to show for us as take home, is when you give replies, don't give replies that put you in a soup. You say something so adamantly, so strongly, and so thing, and then you realize, that wasn't so. So I love that. It's like this. So even, and often we do as courtesy and protocol, and we say, look, this is my opinion, or this is what I think. But how in the Quran, it just says it in 2 words. She says, كأنه هو. It looks just, it looks like it, and that's it. Anyway, so then she becomes Muslim, and then there's more cases. Then it goes on the surah about Thamud, and the other unbelievers of what will happen. But again, time and again, the surah, which is a 93 ayah, not extremely long, we're starting to get into smaller ones, but it's these in greater detail, Sulaiman alayhi salam story, in shorter the Thamud and other people of, I think even Lut alayhi salam's example, and just to remind you that time and again people come, and this is as a solace for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If these Quraysh are taking you to task, they didn't believe Lut alayhi salam, they didn't, Saleh alayhi salam, and they were like, and in Saleh alayhi salam stories, they were like, they wanted to, they said, they wanted to say, oh, but you were from such a good family, what happened to you now? He says, I'm telling you, I'm here from Allah. To you, more important is my family lineage than the fact that I've got you a message from Allah. So the fact that they wish you ill omen, and they plot and they plan, and then Allah plans too. All these stories are there for the Quraysh who are listening into the Quran and not wanting to believe in Rasulullah, that it's a double-edged thing. So for Rasulullah, it's, you don't have to worry. You do your bit, you tell them what you have to, but beyond that, don't worry about what they say, because ultimately, who can guide you out of depthness of darkness? See, and if they're not listening, it's their loss. It's their loss. And so you can go through the earth, you can watch it. This is at 68, 69, but don't grieve over themselves. وَلَا تَحْزَنْ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا تَكُنْ فِي ضَيْقٍ مِمَّا يَمْكُرُونَ. That don't worry about, distress yourself about what they keep saying. And so they keep, and then the other thing, even here, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? So it's like, it may happen sooner than you wish, and then they were destroyed. This is the people of Lut and Samud and so on. So Allah is also telling Rasulullah, giving them bits of the Bani Israel stories and their details, which they had already corrupted in their book, or they didn't have it right, so it's being told. So there, I would be able to tell you that from Surah this point to that point is this one or that one, what the subject is, but I think it's nice if you go. I'm able to just kindle a 101 basic level of interest, that you go and see for yourself that where do things move and where are the from topic to topic, and also we keep reiterating the names of Allah that keep occurring: Aziz, Rahim, Hakim. So the knowledgeable, and it is that the Quran, so, and it's linking it with where's the Quran coming from. It's the one coming from the Alim, the Hakim, and the Rahim, and so on. So that's pretty much the overview, where after talking about these people, it's also talking about what's going to happen at the Yawm al-Qiyamah, and the word against them will be fulfilled. They won't be able to speak. Yes, and the one I did want to, I think, bring in is just this idea that we've given them so many nemas in the dunya, and the nemas are for everybody. And even then, if you can't have the good sense to come and believe, then you've lost the plot. So it goes back at the end to remind Rasulullah that you've just been sent to, commanded by Allah to bow down and to deliver his message, and then in 92, and to rehearse the Quran, and if anybody accepts it, they do it for their own good, and if they lose the plot, they are straight. I'm only a ana minal munzarin, I'm only a munzarin. So so it finishes off with qul alhamdulillah, that, you know, it praise be to Allah who will show you his signs, and Allah is not mindful. Wama rabbuka bighafilin amma ta'malun, he's not, he knows. So this also is a take-home good news for us too, when we feel our goodness is not valued, or also to whatever is going on in Palestine. Allah is in charge. Allah knows. He's not ghafil from what's going on there. So may Allah sort out the situation there, and may whatever has been said and heard be of benefit to us. And there I'll end with Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.